Welcome to Cinema Gulp, and this is our quick shot review of Hidden Figures.
If you were a white male, would you wish to be an engineer?
I wouldn't have to. I'd already be one.
Yes, it's an uphill battle.
Critic.
But yes,
American history has been a debate for the better part of the century as to what was taught and how it is taught. Many aspects of American history are either glossed over or just completely left out. Hidden Figures tells the story of an important part of American history that was completely left out. The compelling and wonderful story of three African American women, not only struggling with segregation, racism, and oppression in the early 60s, but also squeezing in time to become some of NASA's most important and crucial figures in the first orbiting of space. So, John, what did you think of Hidden Figures?
I really enjoyed Hidden Figures. I thought it was a good movie. It was lighthearted at times, but it did have a serious message when it deals with the racism of the 60s and the segregation that's going on. I think they handled that really well, did a really good job with that. But really, it's the story that's being told, this interesting story about these women behind the scenes at the NASA program. And I found all three of the main characters to be interesting. Really enjoyed the performances in this film. There's a lot of standout performances. I think that Tahara P. Henson, she was excellent. She had some really great standout dramatic moments in the film. I really think she may be deserving of an Oscar nomination. And then I think Octavia Spencer was really good as well. She was a little bit more subtle in her performance. She doesn't have as many of the standout moments that Henson had, but she did a good job as well, and they gave her character enough to do. Really, all three of the leads had their own storyline to follow. They're not all doing the same thing in the space program. I thought they were really all going to be kind of lumped into doing the same job and trying to kind of work together, but they all have their own story, their own path in this film, and the film spends enough time with each character to flesh that out.
I really enjoyed this movie as well. I totally love the fact that all three of these women had completely separate jobs and separate departments, and you visit with each one of them periodically to see how they're excelling at those positions. Katherine Johnson, the real character played by Tahari P. Henson, was kind of the main focus of the movie. She was phenomenal in this. She would definitely be one of my favorite performances of the year by an actress. Spencer's always fantastic, and Janelle Monáe as Mary Jackson, kind of the third lead of the three, but also really effective with her kind of sass. The opening is like a prologue of Katherine Johnson as a little girl, but that opening scene, and without spoiling anything, where all three of the women are next to, they're in a broken down car on the side of the road, that quick scene tells you almost everything you need to know about all three of those characters. Octavia Spencer's character is an engineer, so she's a mechanic. She's fixing the car, and then
she's willing to put in the hard work to get the job done. We see that later in the film as well.
Yeah, you do, and it's almost like that opening scene tells you what's to come, because then you have Katherine Johnson's character kind of timid, and she's got her face in the books, and then you have the Mary Jackson one who's giving the cops some shit.
Totally outspoken, and also her storyline later, she's pushing to be the first in a certain area, and she's not willing to sit back and let other people tell her what to do, even though it's the 60s and she's supposed to sit in the back of the bus, as they say. She's not willing to do that, and you see that right from that first scene.
There's a couple really good speeches and monologues in this movie by these women that really lets you know that these ones right here, these are three women that I had never heard of before. I had no idea the impact they had with NASA. These three people now are going to be much more recognized as people that were helping turn that tide, because the stuff that they did, clearly they had like natural talent and they were naturally smart, but they were super hardworking women. I thought the supporting cast was fantastic across the board too. Kevin Costner's doing his thing. He's charming. He's awesome. He's a great character. He plays a very good character. Kirsten Dunst was really great because you kind of hate her. I was really impressed with Jim Parsons. I know some people are saying he played kind of this one-note guy, but I think that's what his character was. His character represented that side that wasn't ready to cooperate with the situation that they had.
And he did it so well.
He was great.
And he had a great energy. Yes, he's playing this jerk. Like you said, he's not really willing to change with the times, although no one is. He's just kind of leading the brigade of everybody in that room. But I thought there was great energy in his performance, and so there's a lot of subtlety to his performance. I don't think it's just completely a one note. The film wasn't really too heavy-handed and super sappy. It's a PG film, and it's kind of telling a family-friendly story at times, other than the fact that it's dealing with racism and segregation, which is a tough subject to watch, especially in this film. There were moments in this film where the whole theater was cringing at what we're seeing. It's just just hard to put yourself in that mindset of these people who are willing to act this way right to someone's face in those times.
And you know what it is? Because this movie is family friendly, it's very lighthearted, it's almost half a comedy, it's really funny, and it has three such likable leads, and everyone, you know, all the people you're following are so likable and you fall in love with them that when that racist stuff hits, it hits with a harder impact than, say, some dramatic movie where everyone's kind of dour and sad anyway. This movie kind of put you in the world of these three women that have very decent lives. They've got homes, they've got kids, and then they've got these jobs, and they're so good at their jobs and they excel at these jobs, whether their coworkers support them or not. And then you see them out in town and doing the everyday things, and it hits you really hard because you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. These women, they still have to sit in the back of the bus. They still have to use different water faucets. Everyone still stares at them. The movie does such a good job of enveloping you in their jobs and their home lives that when they go out in society, you see that impact of how they're still treated like shit.
Other great supporting performances, you mentioned all the women have, you know, their personal lives as well, their home lives. We have this great relationship that gets built in the film with Katherine Johnson, the main character, and her new love interest in the film, who's played by Marsala Ali, who's a standout in the film Moonlight right now, getting a lot of Oscar buzz for that film. He was really good in this. I found him to be very charming and likable in this as well.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. He's really good on a show called House of Cards. He's got a lot of range. I really respected his sort of reserve in this film as a military officer that obviously saw some shit and probably took a lot of shit for being African American in the military. He's got a great little performance. Another really feel-good performance because he plays such a good human being.
Well, and then another one that they paint as a perfect good human being is the character, well, the person that they cast to play John Glenn. He's a lot of fun in the movie. They play him up as this just likable golden boy in the film. It's actually, John Glenn is played by Glenn Powell in the film. Glenn Powell was in Everybody Wants Some earlier
He was
this
the
year.
standout of Everybody Wants Some, for sure.
Yeah, so it was really fun to see him in this film, and he brought a lot of humor and a lot of lightheartedness to the role as well.
He almost borders on like caricature though, because he's such a good. He's like I have a halo around him or something. That's another great thing about this film, and I'm so appreciative and happy that it was made, and I think it really needs to be seen by a lot of people, especially people that have no clue about these women, and not just these women. There was a whole huge department of African American females that had these, they were computers that had this amazing math knowledge, and they just put them down in these dumps and treated them like ass. In this movie, I've seen stuff about John Glenn. There's documentaries made about this stuff. There's movies made about these guys, and there's never a mention of these women. That's another thing we should mention is Octavia Spencer's character is Dorothy Vaughan, who basically is the first one to ever program an IBM.
Yeah, she helps get NASA into the computer age, essentially.
Yeah, that's true. I forget. I think it's the other one, Mary Jackson, who had the smaller part, but I guess at the beginning they show you that she helped with that blast shield, or that heat shield, and blast shield, that's from Star Wars.
And so she basically is working to become an engineer, and so she's pushing to change laws, civil rights laws about being able to go to school for African Americans and attend the same schools as whites and things like that. So hers isn't so much about what exactly she did within the NASA program, but what she did within the civil rights movement.
But it's really Katherine Johnson who did so much for like the logistics and flight data of how to land and how to take off that has never been mentioned in any documentary or movie that I've ever seen. I think it's an important movie to watch. It's another little kind of gap of American history that no one knows about.
Now, I think this film, the strong points of this film definitely are its story and its characters, its acting, its performances. There's some great bits of writing in it. I think there's a lot of fun kind of backhanded comments made throughout the film that are humorous, and others that are played more into the racism and they're almost hard to hear people say. But I think there's some great bits of writing in this film. But I think on a technical level, it's not really an amazing film. I don't think the director blew us away. It's very average. It's fine to look at. It's not like it has poor cinematography in any way. Or I think the production design looked pretty good, like that setting it in the 60s, and that main kind of control room that they're working in at NASA really had that 60s NASA feel, which I think they still have. Like NASA has never moved away from the 60s look. You always see it looking that way. But one negative I had on the film was the ending. It tries to make some fake tension out of John Glenn's Orbit of the Earth. Not that there wasn't something that kind of went wrong in that trip that created tension for the people on the ground, but I think as a viewer, knowing that he makes it back safely, even as a viewer, just letting yourself go in this film and watch it the way they're presenting it in the film, it never built any real tension for me. It felt fake. It felt like this is all going to be resolved very easily, and the characters are tense in this moment, but I, as an audience member, never felt it.
The reason why you and I didn't feel tension, I saw them trying to build it, is because we absolutely 100% know what happened. This movie is going to be a learning platform for you. We saw some parents and they're taking their young kids who probably have no idea how the events played out. I guarantee you there's millennials who don't know who the hell John Glenn even is. So like I said, there's been movies done about this topic already, and they built tension, and because he did go dark. No one could hear him for minutes and minutes and minutes, and they thought he had blown up. So this movie did it from the perspective of Katherine Johnson and the people in the control room. So yeah, I'm with you. I didn't feel the tension, and there's ways to create that tension, but I think a little bit has to do with you and I completely knowing how it turned out.
So I agree with you completely that knowing the outcome of that diffuse the tension, but I also kind of think it's the filmmaking itself.
Yes,
I don't
agree.
think it really built the tension well or created a very tension-filled moment.
I agree with
the
you.
way they wanted it to.
And what's his name? Theodore Melfi, the director. I'm thinking because of how this movie was up until that end point, maybe he just doesn't, maybe that's not his thing, because he's created sort of this bubbly, fun movie that didn't really have tension. I mean, even when the police officer approaches the women, there could have been some tension, and there wasn't. So maybe that's just not his thing. Like, he created this kind of movie, and then at the end it didn't get really like tense-filled,
Yeah, I don't know if this guy should move right into making the next Marvel movie, or maybe do Jurassic Park 4 or whatever the fuck they're gonna make next.
Do another Star Wars movie.
Yeah. So for my Gulp Gauge score for Hidden Figures, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was lighthearted and worked really well when it's dealing with its serious side of the racial tensions in the 60s. So I'm going to give this movie a 6.5.
Okay, and for my Gulp Gauge score, I agree with pretty much every single thing that you said, so I'm going to give this 7 gulps. And for Cinema Gulp's audience chuggability meter, which is what we think the audience is going to get out of it, we're going to consider this movie a top shelf recommendation.
Well, that's our review for Hidden Figures. Please give us a like and a few comments below, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so.
And check us out on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at Cinema Gulp. Until next time, for Cinema Gulp, this is Ben.
And this is John. We drink your cinema.
I drink it up!
Sit and wonder sometimes, I read the paper every day. All these happenings are secular, just happen different ways. And the president's refined in her wings, she's confined with about 30 Percocets and 5 bottles of wine. Carolina, nothing finer than a black woman who climbs to the top of the state building, claiming that their flag is mine. Now people on top of people feels like we can't breathe. Put so much in this mother, could feel like we shouldn't leave. Put it, think the ones who got it would even think to throw you a bone. Moved you out your neighborhood, did they find you a home? Non-cypher, probably no place to. Imagine if the shit was really talking about space too. Imagine if the shit was really talking about space too. Imagine if the shit was really